Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens, the screenwriting step-by-step project, episode number 120. My name is Glenn Gers, and every day, Monday through Friday, if I can make it at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I try to come to you to take you step by step through the process of writing a script. Happens to be an hour-long drama TV pilot script, but really it doesn't matter. The point is the script writing process. That is what I am step by step in for you here, letting you look over my shoulder, share my screen so that you can see how I am working step by step, scene by scene, line by line through the process of writing a script. Because I'm trying to teach screenwriting, and aside from the very valuable lessons that I've got all over my channel, the ones with the nice bold words that say the topic, I'm also doing these step-by-steps to show the process, because I believe more important than any end result, more important than any particular style, what the screenwriter needs to learn most is craft and process, the tools, the skills, the ways to work. Then you do that your way. You choose the tools that are good for you. You choose the skills that help you. Everybody is different. Every project that everybody does is different. So therefore, it's crazy to say you should have a thing at midpoint or you should end with this. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But ideally, you're always bringing the same process. That's the thing you can count on. So that's the thing I'm trying to show you. It's not the best process. It's not the only process. You have to figure out yours, what works for you. This is what works for me that I learned during my 25-year career writing TV and movies. I had to figure it out for myself. I think these are basic steps, basic tools that anybody can use their way. But if not, don't use part. Use the part that works for you. Hello, Wolf Powers. Hello, I Write. Hello, 99 Precinct. Hello, Natasha. It is great to see you all. We are going to get into the outline, which is where we are. The way that this process works is I have started with just a rough idea, just a couple of sentences, a basic genre and story idea, worked up an outline. An outline is a list of scenes. That's all it is. It's a workplace. It's a things to do list for writing. And so we went through that. Then we used that to write every scene in a rough draft, like really shaky rough. However, now I read through that draft. I started to make notes to myself scene by scene, always thinking scenes. Let me see if I can get some slogans up here. I have to alphabetize my slogans. All right. The main thing is think in scenes. An outline is a list of scenes. A script is made out of scenes. Anything you want to put into a script, you got to put into a scene. So the more that you can work in terms of scenes, the better. So now we are going through that old, rough, ratty old script and making notes scene by scene, putting them into the outline. And that is where we are now. We are almost done with this part of it, actually. Let me see here. This is the outline in my documents. And we have gotten... I'm not going to bother with the conspiracy theorists yet because that is just a one-note character. They're just, in the pilot, they're just a crazy person. They're just everybody's idea of an online nut. So what we can do, we've gotten to the end of the sequence that we started yesterday, making the notes on. What I do here as I get my ideas for what I need to put into the next draft, I write them in here for each scene. When I've got them where I want them, I put them on top of the so far so good. So the so far so good is moving down the page. Each day we get some more scenes. We put them on top of the so far so good. And there is an old joke about somebody sitting in an office. They watch, hey, did you hear so-and-so just jumped off the roof? And they said, is he all right? And they say, well, I don't know. When they went past my window, he was saying, so far, so good. So far, so good. That's hopefully not what we are doing here. Hello, Rachel. Rachel Waring is here. Good to see everybody. So, and Maria's here. Maria slipped away from work to give us a little time. Hello, Maria. So this scene, these things, these big, dark, bold lines that they put a little, make sure that they stand out, because that is the scene line, the name of the scene, the main thing that happens in the scene. And I am going to now move this scene, because we've got it up above. So far, so good. All right. So now we get to this scene, which has some of this questions stuff in it. Now, the thing here is that we've got a sequence, a series of scenes, which is kind of the heart of the episode, in which Norman and Madeline, these strangers who have been forced together by bizarre circumstance and ended up sleeping together, now have to get to know each other. And there's actually several scenes in a row. So what I did was I just wrote whatever I could. I threw down everything. Really, when you're writing a rough draft, when you're writing anything and you're just trying to start, throw down whatever you can. Write it down, get it on the page, then you can start to make it better. So this first section, I wanted to talk about the idea that Norman has a history of terrible relationships. He has never had a good relationship. That's his central to his character. But you have to remember, when you're writing a script, you are not telling everybody everything at once. You let it unfold bit by bit. That's what the audience is they're working. They're enjoying figuring out. Like when somebody says, oh, I've never had a good relationship. There's a part of us that goes, why is that? It's probably something about him, although he does not at the moment admit that. So that's what we want to get in here, is the idea that Norman's got a sort of routine. He's got an image of himself. We all have an image of ourselves that we present to others. And when we first meet a character, they are usually presenting that image, the one that they want out there. As the story goes on, we tend to get little views which tell us that there is more to them, or things make them confront about the fact or admit the fact that there is more to them. So my point to myself in this note was, I only have to get this one piece. It's not even so much a lot of stories, it's an attitude about relationships. So I'm going to make that a note. Boom. All right, so now this scene makes sense. Now, the other thing about these scenes that are coming from here on in for the rest of the script is that they are very complex character-based scenes. There isn't a lot of plot trickery going on here. So that rewriting has to be done on the page. You can't really outline that. You can say, as in this case, this is the thing I am trying to get across. But exactly how you do it, that's going to have to wait for the page. You can't plan everything when you write. You plan the essentials, the structural, the emotional high points, so that you don't lose them, because it's so easy to get lost in the woods. So let's move this one up here. Knowing full well there is more to learn. Okay, so these notes, this scene and the next are a mess, and that is true. I don't like word vomit. Maria has pointed out that many people call this the vomit draft. I got to say that, when I'm speaking to someone who uses that term, I'll use it, but generally I don't call it a vomit draft just because I don't like thinking about my work as vomit. I think of it as the rough draft, as the sketch, the beginning, the raw material. So, having done that, I've got a mess to deal with. So one of the things that we're dealing with here is in this scene, we get a bunch of Madeline's backstory. However, when people are getting to know each other, that's very often what they talk about. However, we've also had that a couple of earlier scenes. So the most important thing I have to do now is go through the entire script and figure out when each piece of her backstory comes out once. You don't need to put something in 3 times in an hour-long pilot. You mention it once, you make it clear, the audience gets it, and you move on. You do not keep telling the same story. You don't have room. Plus, it really upsets the audience. They just feel like, why am I hearing this? So I'm just going to take each step, figure out exactly when she tells each step of her backstory. Okay. And then I just wanted to remind myself, not a lot. You don't want to tell the whole story at once. You tell a little bit, and then later on you tell more. It makes people want to keep watching. So, and this question here, what world is she from? Meaning, what in her backstory, where did she grow up? What kind of society, what kind of culture, what kind of place and group of people did she come from? Was she a suburban mall teenager? Was she an urban kid with high pressure parents? Who is she? That is not something. Bonsoir, Arnaud. Good evening to you. Glad to have you here. It's funny. I had initially, I had thought of her as kind of innocent and naive, that she came to New York and wanted to be a rock and roll singer, and that's where she met George back in the 90s in the East Village in New York. And it suddenly occurred to me, not really necessary. In fact, it might be better if she was actually from the city. For a lot of people, this will be a fine distinction. I grew up in New York City, so to me, it's a very specific type of person. I am going to make this decision. She grew up well off in NYC. Very, what's the word? I don't want to say ambitious. High expectations, prep school type life. But she rebelled. Rock singer. Okay, I just learned something about her, which is she was not a naive, innocent person. George came from out of town, but she was not. Okay, this is one of these. Oh gosh, look at that. We got a bot. Let me ban the bot. Ban the bot. Okay, cool. So sometimes you have things which are just character stuff. I am not a big believer in huge amounts of character backstory that isn't going to show up in the story. Probably because I just have it subconsciously. I don't, but a lot of people will say, like, to get to know a character, spend all your time detailing their entire childhood. Yes and no. It can't hurt if it's not taking away time that you could be putting into the stuff they do in the story. Because you have to remember, if it doesn't happen in the story, it kind of doesn't exist for the audience. It can inform the performer, perhaps. It can inform things, But if you're not informing stuff that's actually going to happen in your scenes, it's not real. It's not happening. It's not informing anything. So I'm going to take this little bit of her backstory. Not sure where that goes. Okay. Well, look at that. So we got this little thing. I made a decision. That's lovely. Okay. Oh, it got reformatted. There we go. All right. So then I have all these parts. What I did was I took a note on this is the stuff that I wrote down. I wrote down about Norman's reason for being in the group. But I'm not sure where they go. What happened was I thought the most important thing is to get it on the page, to start to formulate it. How do they say these things? Because this is really important. It is not, information does not matter. Do not think in terms of this is information I need to give to the audience. Oh, I'm going to scoop it out here and drop it on them. That doesn't help. What helps is once you have that in your mind, oh, I want to talk about her background. You look for the place where dramatically, in the moment that she is living, there is some personal need to tell the person she's talking to about this. If she isn't trying to accomplish something by telling someone this, it is not only not helpful, it's actually anti-helpful. It's damaging to the scenes in the story. So, hello, Matthew. Is that the internal versus external argument? Yeah, to a certain extent it is. In other words, if there's something about this person that you know, in theory, it has to be operating to push the person to do things. For instance, at the beginning, in the stage directions of the script for a social network by Aaron Sorkin, who is sometimes an overly stylized writer, but the social network script is quite amazing. And one of the things about it is there's a stage direction which basically says Mark Zuckerberg is in some frame, he says, driven by nonstop anger. Now, that does not come out in the scenes because it's a private matter for him. He's concealing it. But it is important that the actors and the director and everybody know that you understand his character to be operating from that. However, if in the scenes he's not operating from that, then it doesn't matter how you describe it. It doesn't matter if you say he's a worldly, knowledgeable guy who loves to, sip fine wines. If he doesn't do that in the script, then the stage direction is meaningless. The reason that the social network stage direction is brilliant is because in that very scene, you see his anger slipping out in the sense that he feels a great deal of class consciousness. He's urgently trying to prove himself. And so in doing that, he's criticizing his girlfriend because he is saying, you've got to up your game. You got to come with me. I'm going to be going to the top, and you don't seem to want to go to the top, and you don't seem to even know that there is a top. So, and she, of course, is deeply offended by this. And that's the content of that scene. That first scene of the social network is her breaking up with him. And the thing about this that's important is what is driving him is not neediness. It's there. It's not any number of things. It's anger. He is angry at the possibility of being judged. And therefore he is trying to get her to join his campaign to appear good, to appear impressive. And in that, he accidentally insults her. He does not mean to insult her. That's what's very important about that scene. If the stage direction said he is driven by a contempt for unintelligent people, that would change that scene to something much uglier, frankly. It's already ugly, but it's kind of amusingly ugly because he has no idea, no matter how smart he is, what he is doing socially. So that's the point of any kind of backstories. It has to be operating in the scenes. All right. Javier is doing his Friday thing. Tequila shots. I personally prefer to put it in the margarita and shake it up a little and get some flavor around that. Yes, A Few Good Men. Damn, A Few Good Men is a great script, very well constructed. Sorkin is very impressive. He just sometimes goes way over the top in his stylization and in his personal problems, and then it gets uncomfortable. Usually it's the misbelief that the character has or the false belief that will be crucial toward driving the story. That is often true. I don't know if usually I'm hesitant on the rule making. I would say that it is often, but it could also be a truthful belief that is driving a character. So, the main thing is, let's get back to this, which is I've got all this stuff about these characters. Norman's reason for being in this group that he doesn't really belong in, and Madeline's realization that her marriage was a mistake, her hiding after her marriage was a mistake. These are very, very important things. I'm not sure how they're going to show up yet. And the truth is, the answer to this is going to come when I read it again. I have only read this script one time. I read through it, I made my notes, and now I am processing those notes. Having done that, I'm going to see that there's certain things I have not processed yet. I'm going to go read it again over this weekend, and I'm going to make better notes, more notes, notes that are more about the big question of where we learn what. Where we learn what is really, really kind of the job. And I recognize that there's some things here that I haven't figured that out. Yes, he does the fact. I think what drives the story is the need of the protagonist. Yes, I would go with that. I call it want, but need, yeah, absolutely. Everyone calls it a different thing. Goal, objective. That is often what is driving the story. I will just point out that I have sort of a formula. It's let me take myself out of here so you can see this. This is if you ask me, this is a helpful tool. This is not required, but when you want to understand a story, asking yourself these 6 questions is very, very helpful. Because when you ask them, you don't have to come up with a certain answer. They may not all apply. I have a whole video on this, but the point about that is, if you can formulate your questions focused on who it's about and what they want and why they can't get it, you have made a story. Just by that, just by choosing a person and having them want to do something, you've created a story. A story is somebody trying to do something. So that is okay. And okay. So Matthew, yes, this is definitely one of those. This is one of those things where everybody should find their own way to express and formulate these things. Need, want, objective, stakes, all of those things. They're lovely words. The important thing is that you put yourself into the character and that they need or want something. The difference between need and want is actually, it's a matter of interpretation. Some people say that what they need and what they want could be different. In other words, they want, for instance, Mark Zuckerberg in Social Network wants essentially prestige. He wants power and importance and to be recognized as smart. What he needs is love. What he needs is to stop being so damn hungry for power. So want and need, it's sort of sometimes useful to have them in conflict. Anyway, the main thing is whatever works for you. That's the important thing. Maria, I see your question. I'm going to get to it in a second. Yes, he calls it intention and obstacle, objective and obstacle, goal and obstacle. Everybody, it's just the same damn stuff. Everybody has different words for it. There's no right or wrong. All right. So the main thing about this is I cannot answer this stuff yet. I'm going to just make them questions so that I know these are things I have to figure out where they go. All right. Okay. So all of this stuff, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it to so far so good because I have gone as far as I can until I read it again. And I am aware of that because I have done this a lot. The more you do this stuff, the more you get used to the process and you figure out your steps that you take, and the more that you can rely on that. That is everything. Hold on, let me just see. Yeah. Trust the process. Figure out a process that works for you. It will involve writing and rewriting, taking it as far as you can at the moment, and then stepping back and looking at it, and then writing again. Being creative, being editorial, being creative, being editorial, over and over. The more you do that, the better, unless you're not ever finishing it, and then not the more you do it, the better. Okay. So Abraham says, when I explain this, we make a difference between desire and want. The first thing is something the character will be searching for in the story, even to sacrifice. Yeah, it's interesting. There's so many ways to formulate this same idea. Method acting had formulated it as objective and super objective, meaning somebody may want a job, but what they want more than that is to prove themselves to their parents. So they want the immediate thing, that's the objective, that's the story. And then there's the larger emotional issue behind it, which is called the super objective. Call it what you will, it doesn't matter as long as you're thinking about it. I'm gonna take a look at this. All right, although we need to talk about your keyboard. By the end of this, they realize they need something different than what they want. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. Yes, that is not a rule that you have to have an end of what they different from what they want. Sometimes what they want is what they need. Cool. It's all good. There's no absolute. This is every story. If every story was the same, we would get it right and be done, and there would be no more stories. That's obviously not how stories work. Okay, so let's take a look here, because now we get to something where I can actually do some work. Okay, so in this case, because these, I'm just moving the problem down the line. Yes, indeed. It's okay. I got the point. All right. So now, while they are out on this date, on this getting to know you adventure, which is quite long, Xena, oh, goodness, I have a message. Someone has sent me a message. Okay. Xena has arrived because we knew Xena was coming. All the past few scenes, we've known that Xena is on her way to this house to get this thing. Now, in my first draft, I put it in a hidden room because I thought that was a cool thing. It did not make any sense for the character. It was confusing the story to be cool. So sometimes you got to stop and say, all right, I thought that was cool, but it's really like taking this ornate turn that sort of makes the audience feel like I'm watching something inauthentic. I am watching something kind of full of crap. And you know that feeling when you're watching something and it's good, but then all of a sudden it does something and you're like, they just did this because they thought they should, or they thought they had to, or they thought it was cool. So what I thought was, instead of a hidden room, the thing that we're looking for now, I had to think through this, is he has left an important, like an in case I die message, because he is doing something dangerous. His action is to bait a serial killer out of hiding by saying that he has evidence that he will expose, trying to get the serial killer to communicate or come after him. But he's recognized that they could kill him. So he has his information hidden away somewhere, and he has told Xena, if I die, go get this thing. This thing turns out to be a message that he recorded on an old video cassette recorder. Now, the problem is, Xena is 30 years younger than him. She does not have a video cassette player, because who does? So I thought that was fun. That's cool. So we're going to wipe out the old thing. Xena has been told by George that in case of his death, there is a recording with the secrets he was planning to reveal. Now, he doesn't say what form it's in, unfortunately. He has hidden it in his house. Where? I see you, Matthew. I'm gonna get to that in a bit, because I want to try and solve this problem. So he's hidden in his house. Now, one of the things I decided was, as you can see here, I thought originally it was in the living room, and the problem with that was I had it like in a basement under the living room. It didn't make any sense to have this hidden room when he has a whole studio and a whole house to hide his materials in. So there's no reason for a whole hidden room. So therefore, she's somewhere in the house. What she has to be doing, the way that this scene works, it's already written. The good part of this scene is she is playing this tape from George. And in it, George says, I don't have any evidence. And she freaks out. And as she's doing that, Madeline and Norman are coming into the house. Now, here's the thing. If it's in the living room, and the way that we've staged this house so far, the living room is pretty much right inside the front door. I'm a little worried that if the couple was coming into the house and heard some kind of ruckus, considering there's been murder attempts, they would just run out of the house. They need to be pretty far inside, so that running out is not the easiest thing to do. So I need them to come into the living room, which means she can't be in the living room. Attic? Huh. That's kind of fun. Especially because in these old houses, the way that they have the attic is there's like this pull down step ladder thing. Yeah, I like that. Attic. Pull down step ladder in the hallway. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. This information has been driving the entire episode, so I'm going to also put it where we first hear it, because it's very important to make sure this is clearly stated in the story. Okay, so there we go. Look at that. Okay. Okay. Now we are getting somewhere. Right. Okay. All right. Now I can go back and answer some of your questions because I am at a pausing place. People are just trying to contact me today. Okay. Maria has asked a question. There's a lot of movie scripts and TV scripts out on the internet, and you can get them. And it's good to read the real production scripts, which Maria is pointing out has color coding for the revisions. By this we mean, let me see if I can. Hang on just a second. I will see if I can find. You know what? I'm going to just do it here. Here, I'm going to pretend that this is it. Okay, here on the title page of this script, okay, so down here at the bottom, it will say things like, scripts will often say things like pink revisions and then a date, yellow revisions and then a date. And sometimes that list will be like 12 items long, okay? So that's on the title page of a production script. Here's what that means. When a script goes into production, they start with a script. The data, like whatever the script they're using at the beginning of the production, of when the production period begins, that's the first copy. But at that point, they start to number all the scenes, and they start to make a plan for the budget and the schedule based on that list of scenes. When they decide to do a rewrite, or they find out that the location is and have forced them to break a scene into two or whatever, lots of things change in the script. At that point, they have to make sure that everyone who's working on the script, who got a copy of the script, knows which draft they have in their hands or on their computer. So what they used to do, this was the color thing was a way to do this when they actually Xeroxed the pages and handed them to people, which is now not always done, hopefully not as much. So what they would do is to make sure that you knew that the new pages, because they would say, okay, we're changing pages 12 to 15, scenes 1 to 6. So they didn't want to copy the whole script over again. They would just change the pages they were rewriting. And they would say, those are the blue pages. And they would give you those pages printed on a different color paper, so that you could say, do you have the latest version? It's the blue version. So that's why they have these pink and blue. And there was a whole list of the order that the colors go in, that the assistant directors and the production managers all through the industry agreed. You do white, then pink, then salmon, then green, then blue, whatever. I don't know what the order was, but it was always that. And then if you cycled through, they would get like second pink and second, because sometimes, I got to tell you, they are on many scripts, you will keep rewriting all the way through production. You will do, I mean, on Fracture, I think we did 40 drafts while shooting. It wasn't a whole new draft. It was changing tomorrow's scene, but that changed the script. So therefore, everyone had to know we're working from the script that was changed as of last night. So that is what those colors mean. If you see that on the title page of a script, that's a good sign. It means you're reading a real script, not somebody's transcript that they took the DVD or the streaming and typed out what they were watching on the screen. It's the actual script. So that is what those colors mean. Did that help? Okay. Let's get down here. Okay. Okay, so you can find one thrifting. The option could be that she got the cassette, didn't know it. Yes. The thing is, they still make, I believe, DV cassettes. They don't make VHS cassettes anymore, but we're not going to say this is VHS. He's not that out of it. But if you shoot on what was called mini DV or something like that, which is still a digital tape, they still make those. Less and less, I am sure. Hide it in a fake book because nobody will look in it without probable cause. Yes, except I'm trying to get them out of the room. Yes, it could be hidden. One of those things, yes, definitely. And I write is on it. Yes. Yeah. So guys, I am not. I love the suggestions, but I'm not too worried about where it's hidden. Like, oh, it's hidden in plain sight, but you can't see it. Like, oh, it's inside that rubber chicken or something. That's not what the point was. It's not that hard to hide something in a house. If somebody said, I hid this in my house, unless someone is going like searching for it, which why would they? Nobody knows it exists. You could just put it in a drawer. The important thing is that he's saying to her, go to my sock drawer and look behind the socks and you'll find this thing. Not that it's in some brilliant place. I didn't need it to be super clever. I just needed it to be hidden in an awkward place that requires her to go deep into the house. This is actually a really important thing to remember. When you get into writing scene by scene, it's very important to remember the purpose of what you are doing. It's not always to be clever. It's not always to be cool or to be interesting. Usually, it's about what do I want to put this character through? What is the character doing? And in this case, what is important with the character is not that she's finding a thing that no one else can find. It's not that she's unearthing the secret. It's that she's forcing her way into this house and trying to get to a hard-to-get part of it. That's all that matters, is that we're getting her into a corner of the house where she is going to do this. That overall is the objective, the thing I have to accomplish. And if I start making it about the cleverness of the hiding place, I'm actually going to de-escalate the weirdness of what she has to do to get there, which in this case is go up in the attic. Okay. No, it's not an audio cassette. It's a video cassette, but it's a relatively contemporary. A small change in one scene can have bigger implications in the story, making it necessary to rewrite the other scenes too. That is 100% way correct. We are doing that right now. We are running into that. Okay. All right. It can be a real pain. That is truth. Yeah, although, I don't know, Goldenrod is pretty good. I always liked Goldenrod. Okay, so a question from Bob Powers. Do you recommend using real names or add the pseudonyms in a historical, like a Mafia era story? Well, that depends. If you are using the real name of a public figure like Bugsy Siegel or any number of famous mobsters, Sammy the Bull Gravano. Okay, those are people who have had dozens of books written about them. There's a lot of historical information. You can probably get away with fictionalizing them they're dead. That's an important thing. Do not write about living people. Do not write about someone who is not a public figure, because they or their family can sue the production. So the answer is, if you are talking about real mafia history, you can mention real mafia history because it's real history. I mean, it's public. The issue is, are you trying to say they met with, Vincent the Chin, or was it you're just trying to say he's the big boss? Because if you are trying to create your own world of your own mob, make it up. If you're actually trying to talk about the real people, I don't know. I am not a lawyer, but I would say if it is a figure about whom there are lots and lots of different publications about them, or lots of different historical fiction versions of them, you could get away. Like if you wanted to say Douglas MacArthur, the general who in World War II, you could probably say he was like this, but then it gets into like, what are you saying about them? Why are you choosing them? Because that is a creative choice in which you are doing historical fiction. And if you want to do that, that's cool. But then do some thinking about what and why you're saying what you're saying about them. In my opinion, not a legal opinion. My legal opinion is talk to a lawyer. Always talk to a lawyer if you have an entertainment lawyer. But the basic answer is never write about a real living person without their permission, written permission, and never write about a real person who is not a public figure without they or their family's written permission, even if they are dead. That is good advice. Larry has been having trouble finding my internet right for the past 15 minutes. Hey, I'm sorry about your internet. It happens to the best of us. Luckily, this will be available shortly after I finish and click the finish button. It will be available to watch any old time, so don't worry about it. Don't feel stressed. Statute of limitation. People don't become public domain. Public domain is published information. Is something that has been copyrighted, a copyrighted book or article or movie, and then once again, do some legal research. I am not a lawyer. I cannot give you legal advice. I believe that there is a declaration when something becomes public domain. I don't know. Who could we consider a public figure? Politicians, presidents? That is a very good question. Once again, I am not a lawyer, but my answer would be any living figure, an influencer, a YouTuber, has a right to privacy, even if they are a public figure, because they're a performer. They still have the right to their own image and likeness and name. The thing you do not want to do is that if they are a president or something like that, if they are a public figure in the sense that they have taken on a position that has made them the subject of many different other people's writing, I believe that this is one of those things. Talk to a lawyer, look at lawyer stuff. There's got to be websites where they have information about this. But the main thing I'd say is really think about why you are using public figures, why you are using real figures. What's the advantage to that? Most of the time, it's not to your advantage. You are requiring yourself to do some research, or you are twisting up somebody's image for what reason? What are you gaining from it that you would not gain by creating a fictional character? If it's about how your character goes to the White House during World War I and meets Woodrow Wilson and discusses the issues of internationalism and racism, cool. Then it makes sense to do that. But then you should probably do some real research on the person. If it's a YouTuber or an influencer, don't use them. Make up your own that is like the thing you want to talk about. Create your own characters. Do not randomly use real people. Credits normally state, no, the credits do not save you. The fact that you'll say the characters in the film are fictional does not allow you to use a real name and say it's fictional. That's it's like saying this newspaper is not a newspaper. Yeah, you can say that all you want, but you use their name. So no, that is just an extra legal precaution that they put on things where they've already had a lawyer vet it. Please let us not worry too much about using real characters. Once again, why are you doing it? What's the point? What's the advantage? Unless you have a really good reason to use a real person, and that person should be a thematic and meaningful figure in your story, don't do it. What do you feel about the Tommy and Pam show? They did that without the consent of either Tommy and Pam. They did that without their consent, but with a lot of lawyers on their side telling them exactly what they could and couldn't do. And what they could and couldn't do required them to use the things about Tommy and Pam that were public. For instance, things that they publicly said about themselves, pictures they published themselves, videotapes they made, so that was information that they were using, stuff that Tommy and Pam had made public. Yeah, trash day. But the other thing about that is that very often, I know that the TV series Masters of Sex had a lot of trouble because while they had the permission of the main couple whose life stories they were telling because they were using a book about them, they did not have the permission of their families, excuse me. And so they ran into a problem because they were telling the story about this man and this woman scientist who had an affair. They both had families. They both had kids. Oops, the kids are real people and they did not want their story told. And it really messed up that show's arc because they began to run into legal problems with that. So, oh gosh, another bot. Okay. South Park, a whole other set of stories. Let's stop talking about real characters. What we are going to do is quickly see if somebody else asked a question about anything, because otherwise I'm going to be signing off shortly. Yeah. I think that's where we're going to stop for now. Because what I'm going to do is on next week, let me just check my calendar and make sure. I believe I will be. No, I'm not going to be here Monday. Monday afternoon, I'm going to be teaching a class for the David Lynch Masters in Film program. I am going to be doing that on Monday. So I will not be available to you guys until Tuesday. Tuesday, I'm going to come back and I will have read through the script again, and we are going to plunge into finishing our plan for the rewrite. That is next week's challenge to me. Get this thing moving. In the meantime, I will see you all. I hope that you spend a good deal of this weekend. Go write something.